Welcome to episode number 2 of Let's Bring You Home. Tanera, how are you? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Doing well. Sitting here watching the snow come down a little bit, and it looks nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. The flakes have been kind of gently falling down all day long. I was at the office this morning, but I had to come home because the internet was down. So anyway, I'm coming at you
Oh
from my home
yeah.
office, and you're at your home office. That's how we do it these days, right?
Exactly. At least we're blessed to be able to have Zoom and still do things like this while being separated.
I love it. I love it. So, well, we're just excited to come back to you with our next episode. Thank you to everybody who listened to our first one. We're totally blowing up the internet, getting famous, right? maybe not. But yeah. Did you get any feedback besides from your mom, Tanera? Did you get some viewers?
My boyfriend's mom.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
But she's a
I
real
don't even
estate
know if my
agent,
mom.
so
Oh,
yeah.
she is?
Yeah, she actually teaches a real estate course. And so she actually listened to the full thing and she gave good feedback on it. So I take that a little bit more seriously than my mom saying it was good.
Yeah, there you go. Very
Yeah.
nice. Well,
And you got some good feedback, right?
yeah. I had a client who's getting ready to sell her house. Actually, she just went on the market last week and she watched the whole thing. I think she probably took notes. And then she asked me afterwards, like,
I
am I
love
a good
it.
buyer? Because we talked about the 4 steps to winning in this market. And I
Hmm.
was, yeah, you're a good buyer. She's a very good buyer. She's got all her ducks in a
Very good.
row. And
Very
right.
good. Love it.
Yeah, it's crazy out there right now, huh? It's still very competitive. It's not really slowing down at all. What are you seeing out there right now, Tanera?
Yeah, we haven't seen any type of slowing down. I was just asked recently by a client what I'm seeing, and he said his friend has lost out on a couple offers in the suburbs area, so Metro Denver, and was putting in offers 15% to 20% over asking and still losing out. So it's
Oh,
definitely still pretty crazy. And as we'll go through, you can see the inventory is still dropping.
yeah. Let's look at some stats and go over those. Before I do, I totally agree with you, Tanera. That client I was just talking about, we listed her house and got 10 offers over the weekend, and we ended up going for about 130,000 over the asking price. So
Yeah.
just crazy. And it was
Oh,
actually
yeah.
a cash offer too.
It was a beautiful
So,
home as well. I can see why it went for that high.
right. Yeah. Well, so the first graph we have up here for our viewers that are watching this online is the February active listings. So we only have data through February at this point. But if you look here, there were 2019 active listings in February in the Denver metro area. And that is 52% below last year at this time. Last year we had 4,200 active listings. And then back in 2020, right before the pandemic, we had almost 9,000 active listings in February of 2020. Isn't that crazy? So we're just dropping drastically from where we used to be.
Yeah.
So that makes it tough, right?
Oh yeah. And this is one of my favorite statistics. It's the one that I think is craziest. The month supply that we're going to next.
Yeah, tell us about month supply. What does that even mean?
Yeah. So the month supply of homes for sale is essentially if no other homes come on the market with what is available now, that is how many months of supply we would have for people that, are looking to buy homes. So you could tell in 2020, we had enough homes on the market in February for 1.7 months to go by before the last house was bought. And now we have less than 2 weeks before all of the houses are gone if no other sellers put their homes on the market. So that is absolutely crazy.
Wow. So if there were no new listings that came on the market, it would only take less than 2 weeks for every single home in the Metro Denver area to sell with our current demand and the buyers that we have.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And so you can see that's just another indicator and another way to look at it. Kind of the same
Mhm.
thing, but we're just looking at it in a different way. Here's another really interesting one. I'm going to go over the average days in the MLS. That just means the number of days from when it goes available in the MLS to when it goes under contract or pending. So according to this, well, if we go back to 2020, homes would be in the MLS for 42 days before they would go pending. Now, 2022, they're only in the MLS for 18 days. And this is, again, this is average. So this is taking into account the really extreme, the ones that are in the market for like overpriced and they're in there forever. Yeah, right. So I actually like looking at the median days in MLS a little bit better. Do you want to go over that with us, Tanara?
Yeah. So the median days is actually, it's pretty funny that it's the same from 2021 to 2022 in February, but we're right at about 5 days. So like we talked about in the last episode, if you listened in, and if you haven't, we'll explain again. But typically homes are listed on Thursday before a weekend and go under contract on Monday. So that's right on par with what we're seeing on our own listings and what we're helping buyers with, sitting right at around 5 days in the MLS. Whereas in 2020, before the big drop in inventory happened, it was around 14 days as the median. So Seth, how was it even before then? I wasn't an agent, so I have no idea, but I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, let me pull. I have stats that go back like 10 years, and I can tell you, like, normally it would have been more like, 100 days is kind of like more typical from what you used to see many years ago. But even like, 30, 40 could be pretty normal. But even in 2020, we were still in a very hot market at 2 weeks. And, it's been interesting to see the trend where, it's been pretty constant with days in MLS for the past 2 years, because almost everybody is going on the market on Thursday, and they're all waiting until the weekend before they accept an offer because they want all the offers to come in. So that's why it's probably not going to get any lower than 5 days, thankfully,
right?
Because people want to wait through the weekend. But yeah, pretty crazy,
Oh, yeah.
And people are still shocked when we tell them that, aren't they? I mean, people are thinking like, oh, it's the best to sell your home in the summer, June, July, and it's probably going to take a little while. And I'm like, no, actually right now is the hottest time, and it's going to take a weekend.
Right.
Max,
Exactly. Yeah. Now is always the best. We have no idea what will happen in the future. So this is live statistics.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wish I could predict the future.
Yeah, I know that we'd all go to you, Tanara. We'd get out that crystal ball. So here we have the average percent of close price to list price. For February, it was 104. So that means if you put your house on the market for $100,000, just trying to think of some easy numbers. Yeah, then it would sell for $104,000, right? So, and that's on average. And back before the pandemic, and then before that, it was a little bit below 100%. So homes would usually sell for below the asking price. And, if you go back to like 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, homes were selling for several percentage points below 100. So now we're way over 100. And, that number, it's almost a little deceiving, right? What is 930 divided by 800? It's like, I think the one that I just sold this weekend was
15%,
right? Yeah, 15% over. I mean, we're seeing some that are, 10, 15, even 20% over the asking price.
Right.
But on average, it's more like 4%. So yeah, pretty crazy. So the easy part is to sell your house in some ways. I mean, it's never easy. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's not a matter of like if you're going to sell your home, but how much can you get for it? And that's where some of the skill and the negotiation, the strategy comes in.
Right.
But the hard part is buying a new home, right? That's much more challenging than selling at this point.
Definitely, for sure. And yeah, this average closed price we'll talk about in February kind of is on par with, it's making it a little bit more difficult. I actually just read this morning too from one of our Instagram posts that as Denver homes are increasing in price, they're also, of course, keeping up with that. So companies understand and are also increasing wages. So even though it does look a lot less affordable, that's not actually the case because wages are also increasing. So I thought that would be interesting to point out before this as well, because average home price in February was up to $710,000. So 17.8% increase from 2021 in February, which is awesome for homeowners. You have tons of equity to tap into. However, if you're not a homeowner, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So
the good news is rates, and I love that you pointed that out, Tanara. I really love that because there's so much sensational news out there, like, oh, it's nobody can afford to live here and it's terrible and the sky is falling, But when you factor everything in, wages have gone up and interest rates are very low still. I mean, you could go, I'm actually doing some refinances right now, and we're looking at, rates of 4, 3.75, 3.875. So it's, the rates are still incredibly good. So affordability, I wish we had a graph to throw up here, maybe next time, is not as bad, is actually good historically compared to what it has been in the past. So, so good to keep it in perspective. But looking at the numbers there, it's like, what, it's expensive, right? I know we've got some people that are relocating here, and if it's their first time, it's can be a little bit of a shocker. So
yeah, that definitely I think is important to even rent, because you look at this and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't afford a house. But you also look at rent prices, and inflation has brought those up quite a bit. So it's like you can either buy a home and pretty much your mortgage payment will be very similar. My rent is actually more than my parents' mortgage payment right now, which is absolutely,
oh my gosh,
they live in a
that's
different
crazy.
area. So of course, take that into consideration. But I think it's just, a lot of people want to get out and stop paying rent to other people. So it really does even out over time. And even though buying a home might seem overwhelming, rent is also on par with that. And it's just the community in general that newcomers into the city, we have to educate them on for sure.
Absolutely. I had an interesting thought as you were talking about that. Look at these numbers from 2022 to 2021. We see an increase in the average price in Denver of 17.8%, let's say, 18% just to make it easier. Well, you might be thinking, okay, let's wait until things soften and the market takes a downturn, or maybe we can live with our parents for a while or rent a little while and save up, or, whatever. There's different things that people sometimes think about. And however, if you just do the math on that, let's just round it up to 20% because, 18 is pretty close. So if prices went up 20% last year on a $500,000 house, that's $100,000 of equity approximately, right? That, that you weren't able to take advantage of if you're renting.
Right.
And there's probably not very many people who would have saved $100,000 in their piggy bank over the course of last year by living with their parents or holding off. And never know when the market's going to slow down. There's people that are economists, people that are much smarter than I am, that are telling us that this is not going to change anytime soon. This is going to take, we have a chronic long-term shortage of homes that this has been years, if not decades in the making, and it's going to take years for it to work itself out. So if you're sitting on the sidelines, you're probably going to be sitting there for a while, So it might be best just to get in the game and get on that train sooner than later.
Absolutely. Maybe we can, in a future episode, we can talk about the cost of waiting, because I like to talk about that a lot, especially with the lenders, they, increasing rates and things like that. So that'd be a cool topic to dive more into.
Sure. That would be fascinating. And I also want to mention something too, like as we're doing this podcast, I was talking to a friend of mine today, who's a really successful lender, and his philosophy, and I think our philosophy matches up really well. We're not just saying this, because we want people, whoever's listening to this, to call us and buy a house right now. It's, whether you buy a house or not, that's, a decision that you have to make. And also, you might be in Florida and we can't help you, or you might have another realtor that you already are working with. And it doesn't really matter to us. Like, we're not trying to do this necessarily just to, get more deals. We just want to inform the public and provide this service and just have another voice out there advocating for the public and trying to give good information. And so just want to keep that in mind. we really believe passionately in everything that we're saying and hope that it's beneficial. So
Totally.
yeah. So, all right. Well, there's our stats for February. So our topic now that we'd like to move into is, since we've kind of set the stage for what a challenging market it is for buyers because of the shortage of homes, what can you do to be a good buyer in this market, or how can you become competitive? And we talked a little bit about that last time, so we don't want to repeat that. But one kind of aspect of that is to have all of your ducks in a row so that you can be a really competitive buyer, and you don't have to go into the bidding process with a contingency or with stuff that's going to be like extra baggage that will hold you back. And if there's 10 offers that somebody's looking at as a seller, they're instantly going to look at the ones that are, the price is the most important thing, right? I mean, that's always the most important thing, but you got to back it up with a really strong lender and full underwriting, things like that, if you have a loan, or cash if you can. So what I think we really want to talk about today is, how do you compete with cash buyers? Because a lot of times the cash buyers are the ones that are getting the houses. Would you agree?
Yes, 100%. They're guaranteed to close, which I think is probably the biggest thing that us as agents inform our sellers to look at. And nothing really is going to fall through. They can close a lot quicker normally. So those who are wanting to, tap into the equity of their home a little bit quicker, all cash is always going to be the best answer for them. So definitely. And you went under contract with an all cash offer recently, so you can attest. And my last sale was an all cash offer. It's so common nowadays. And I agree with you.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I'm just going to run through a couple scenarios here. And this is kind of what I talk about with clients, and I'm sure you do too sometimes. But I was just having a conversation the other day with some folks who are moving out here to Colorado, relocating, and they've got a home to sell. And so I just kind of point blank told them, if you come out to Colorado next month or the month after and your home isn't sold yet, and you want to make offers on homes, let's say we show you around, you find your dream home and it's just everything that you wanted, but your home is not sold yet, you would have to make a contingent offer upon the closing of that home before, in order to make an offer. Like, you couldn't buy this house in Colorado without that home selling if it was contingent. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, and let me ask you, Tanera, if you were listing a home, or if you were a seller, would you, in this market, would you consider a home that was contingent? Would you consider an offer that was contingent upon another home selling?
I would probably not, just because sellers have every right to be picky in this type of market, because why not? They have, 10 offers in hand, and they're able to compare and contrast every single one of them and decide what's going to be best for them. And someone who might not, we don't know what the buyer's house looks like or how long it will take to sell. So there could be the risk you take in it not selling, even if they have an offer for $150,000 over asking price, but you have an all cash offer, or even a loan, like a conventional loan offer, $125,000 over asking price. You're still probably going to go the very safe route, and probably have an option to even get someone else up a little bit higher over their contingent offer. So really, 100%, I would advise my sellers to take a non-contingent offer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree 100%. So so you're saying that if I have a home to sell and I've got it on the market, let's say that I, get it under contract, and we're going to close in 30 days. In that case, you're still not going to accept my offer, right? Because it's still going to be contingent on the sale of my home.
Right.
And, we don't know if that deal's going to fall through. There could be issues with the inspection or the appraisal, and, and then you're going to back out, and it's going to cause a lot of problems for me because I'm moving somewhere. So oh, cool. We got some some fancy notes popping up here on the screen. Is that, I'm going to keep talking. I don't know.
No worries.
Okay, that was a squirrel right there. I totally got distracted. So anyway, you're not gonna do that, right? So what do
Right.
we do? What do we do? Like how? So what are you telling me that I have to wait until my home sells before I can
Um,
like get an offer accepted here in Colorado? Like if I have a home
yes.
to sell?
So traditionally and typically, before we dive into some other options, a seller would list their home, and if they want to buy a home next, they'll ask for the buyer to provide some type of rent back, which just means, hey, we're going to close on this home. They'll have the funds, and then they'll rent back from the buyers for a specific amount of time to be able to find their next house, which doesn't excite a lot of buyers that they have to provide some type of rent back. However, people are definitely offering that and are willing to do that in this type of market. But if you don't want kind of a time limit on finding your next home, which can be really stressful, especially if there's not a lot of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
There's We are able to provide you as real estate agents and real estate advisors to look at your options as far as, do you want to put it on the market and have rent back as an option, or we have some really cool financing options that might allow you to buy before you sell without any type of contingency. So
Okay.
we definitely are going to explore. We have like 5 different options, maybe even 6. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to dive a little
Yeah.
bit more into some of those?
Let's talk about those. Before we do, real quick,
Yeah.
so if I was just doing the traditional way and got my house listed under contract, you know, and I get the people that accept the buyers that are buying my house, they're going to give me like a 60-day rent back.
Mm-hmm.
I could wait until after the closing of my house, and then I have 60 more days to hurry up and find another house, right? So
Yeah.
that could work, right? But it could also be very stressful. Like, what if the right home what if I have to settle on something because the right one isn't
Right.
available, or I can't get it because it's just so competitive? That's the window there. It's like you only have like 2, 3, 4 weeks at the max to actually get an offer accepted, and that, according to that scenario. So
Right.
it can be a little bit stressful. Another option, before we go into all those options that we used to do with people, is we would help them to get a line of credit on their home set up before they sold their house. And they might have a lot of equity in their house, and they could get enough out to make the down payment on their next house. So they could do all that ahead of time. But the trick with that is they would have to qualify to have 2 mortgages at the same time for a period of time. There was going to be some overlap there, but when they would own their new house and they would own their old house, and so their debt to income ratio had to be such that it would be below the requirements of like 40% usually. And for some people, they just couldn't afford that. They couldn't qualify for it, and they also felt really uncomfortable doing that because 2 mortgage payments can be a lot of money all of a sudden.
Right.
So it was kind of only an option for people maybe with enough money saved away or enough income. And for the average Joe, it just wasn't really an option. It was kind of a select few that could do it that way. So, and that's still a possibility for some people to do it that way.
Right.
And it's a very viable option. First Bank has some really good products with that, where you can bridge that. There's bridge loans too that people would have done in the past. But those can be a little more expensive. Okay, so now let's move into some of these newer options that are available now. We've got several companies that we've partnered with that basically they can turn you into a cash buyer. They can make you into a person, almost like a wealthy person, someone who had a lot of money to be able to bridge the gap between buying and selling and just empower you to do these things. So there's companies that will help you actually buy a house before you sell your current house, so you can find the house of your dreams, buy it with a cash offer if you get approved with these companies, close on it, move in, and then you can sell your house. And we have partners that can help you do that. And you don't have to, it's not like you're getting like you can have your cake and eat it too.
Right.
You can get a great house with a cash offer, and you can still sell your house. It's not like you're taking a huge discount on the sale of your home. Like they're not taking advantage of you. These companies are set up to do a lot of volume, and they have a minimum amount of profit that they make, but it's not a lot, and you still get the benefit of whatever your home eventually sells for. So in that
Right.
scenario where you buy before you sell, they're gonna give you money up front to do that based on the value of your house, and then we're gonna help you sell your house. And if it goes for way more than everybody thought, that's gonna go in your pocket. It's not gonna go in the other company's pocket. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And they typically offer about 90% of market
Mm-hmm.
value,
Up
which,
front.
yeah, upfront, which gives you typically enough, and whatever you have also saved up to buy that next home. And another perk is showings aren't the most glorious thing in the world, having to leave your house for multiple days at a time. So it allows you to even move into the next house, and then your home will be vacant and show beautifully. We could do paint, things like that before showing start, but it's a much easier process than the stressors sometimes of putting your house on the market and I remember over the past weekend, I had one of the sellers text me and be like, I'm sitting outside. Like, can you check if this is the last showing? I really want to go inside. I was like, oh no. I was like, I felt so bad. It's like literally her house and she couldn't go inside yet. But
Yeah.
showings are sometimes not that exciting. So that's another
Mm-mm.
perk of being able to buy before you sell. And these guys will own your home. So you're able to move out, have those funds, and have your next home.
Yeah, and then you throw in, dogs,
Right.
kids, it's just like, whoa, it can be really, really off-putting and discouraging for people to have to worry about that. So it's a real good, attractive option for a lot of people. So that's a thing now. Buy before you
Yeah.
sell. The acronym is BBYS, in case I mentioned that or we mentioned that in the end. So, and then there's several different partners that we work with on that. And so we can guide you to, there's Homeward, there's Homelight, there's Knock, and then there's several lenders that we work with too. So let's talk about, somebody who needs to buy a home before. No, we're going to talk about somebody who's just buying a home. They don't have a home to sell. And so they don't really necessarily need a company that helps bridge that situation of buy before you sell. They're basically already a good buyer that doesn't have any baggage, no contingencies. But, still, do they have $1 million cash or whatever amount the price range is sitting around where they can make a cash offer? Well, some do, some don't. But we have several partners now that we can hook you up with them. You can get approved with them. And they're basically like a lender, but instead of waiting until closing to give you the cash, they basically do the full underwriting, everything up front, and they make you a cash buyer. So when you make an offer, you don't have to have a loan availability deadline, a loan terms deadline, an appraisal deadline, all those typical things. So you're just cash. And that's an amazing thing when you're a seller to get a cash offer, and all of those possibilities of where the contract could unravel and things could fall apart and it goes back in the market. Like that's all gone when you have a cash offer. So again, talking about that, some of the recent transactions we've had, the cash offers always are at the top of the list. They're always the first pick, especially if they're the highest price and a cash offer. But you could even sometimes get a better deal if you're head to head with someone who's got a loan and you're cash. You might even be able to get a better price than them, But we're not talking about like you're not going to get like 50,000 less or anything crazy, So, but there's a real value to that cash. It provides so much certainty and confidence that it's definitely worth a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And typically I would say a lot of these lenders too, they don't even require you to pay any money to be able to back your offer with a cash. With basically they're using their own money Some are large corporations, some are smaller lenders. We have, a mix of both, but they pretty much front their own money. And like Seth said, they pre-underwrite you, have everything ready, and you would still technically close on the home on closing day, but they're able to put it up front, and put it in the offer. This is all cash. This is where it's coming from. And just makes you very competitive. And for a small second, I think you just froze a little bit. So I freaked out that we were going to have a bad connection again.
We're having some tricky connections today, but we're getting through it. Through it.
No worries.
Well, that's great. So to wrap that up, it's just such a valuable thing. I think you don't want to wait till the last minute to figure this kind of stuff out. If you go in a little bit unprepared and start looking at homes, making offers, you're going to learn pretty quickly that it's hard. Now, having said that, this is not like, you don't have to do it this way. There's other ways to do it. You can still get a loan. I would say 80% of the buyers out there are still working with a traditional lender. Mm-hmm. And we help a lot of clients do that. We have great lenders. So this is not the only way to do it, but it's a great option to get educated about and see if it's a good fit for you. So right. We definitely would recommend exploring those things and it's never too soon to get started and do your research and get everything in place so that you're ready to go when the right home. You just never know when the right home is going to pop up, Absolutely. And we can always switch gears, even, if you do get traditionally approved for a loan and then lose out on a couple homes because you're just constantly getting beat out all cash, then that's something that we can be like, okay, time to switch gears. Like, this is getting a little more stressful. Let's try to put ourselves in the best competing position possible. And that's when this option comes into play very nicely. Absolutely.
Your all cash buyer that your seller took was actually utilizing one of these companies, right?
They were. Yeah. And that was exciting. And it was interesting. He made some comments with the offer that he sent over that this was maybe their 6th or 7th transaction. He'd helped several of his clients do it. So, that was nice to hear that it wasn't going to be like the first time and that it was absolutely, they've been through it before. So make sure when you're talking to your realtor that that they know and that they educate you and that you kind of explore all these different options and they can definitely provide a lot of value to that in that process. So Tanera, last time we met for our first episode, you were telling us about Sassafras downtown Highlands. Hopefully they gave you like a free gift card in the mail or something because you did a good job.
Yeah, I didn't get one of those, unfortunately. I'll have to come back and present them with our podcast.
I know. We're gonna tag them on our post or something so they can see it. But yeah, I love going out to eat. It never gets old. Like every week, my wife and I are trying something new, or to be honest, more often than not, we're going to the same place because she is a huge Torchy's Tacos fan. But I got her away from Torchy's last weekend. We went to a fun place called Black House Tavern in Parker, but I didn't really get any like fun videos or photos or anything of that place, but it was excellent. So I highly recommend that. Black House Tavern, if you're out that way in Parker, it's a really fun place, really good food. Cool. But, we are so lucky to have an awesome taco place right by our office. It's so funny because, and I think we mentioned this last time too, but Gabby on our team, our operations manager, she's a big foodie. She's kind of a food snob. Mm-hmm. And every time I mention that I go to Torchy's, she's like, that's not real tacos. I don't like Torchy's. And I'm like, what? It's so good. We love it. But I think that she would approve of this next place that I'm going to mention. It's called Sabroso. Sabroso, I don't know, but it's right off of Dry Creek in Yosemite. It's right by our office, so that's fun. And I love going there just to grab a taco, and their tacos are so good. I mean, this is not like the Americanized tacos at all. It's like it feels like you're at a street vendor, in Mexico or whatever, and you're getting it out of the food truck. They're so good that they have the really small little corn tortillas and all the different types of meat that you can put on there. I think the last time I went, I got pastor, which is, what is pastor again? That's the
pork and pineapple, most
pork and pineapple. And the guy asked me if I wanted pineapple, and I'm like, I guess so, because I'm not really Beneficino, but I loved it. It was so good. It tastes delicious. And then I think the other one I got was a steak, but they also put on like, they have the cilantro and the onions and just lime and salsa. It's so delicious and it's seasoned perfectly. I asked for 2 tacos and somehow I got 4. So I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I think they serve, because I also got 4 tacos, which is that when I was referring to, I love getting a lot of food so I can bring home leftovers. I was able to have, it's weird because 2 tacos isn't enough. 3 is sometimes too much. I wish I could have like 2.5 tacos.
I know.
I was able to bring it. I also have been to that place. I just got the chicken tacos and I was like, wow, these are super good. And yeah, you have the choice of all these different salsas too, and whether you like it spicy or not. And they also have options to have margaritas, which I thought was interesting for a smaller place like that, that they also have that option. And they have a
That's
nice
kind of fun. Yeah, I need to go back in the summer. The last couple of times that I've been, I think the only 2 times that I've been, it's been in the winter. So
yeah,
it'll be fun to go there when it's warm outside. And I feel like they have a lot of regulars. Like people find out about this place and they go over and over and over again. And one of my friends told me about it. And yeah, I think you guys might have mentioned it too. So anyway, if you're in the area, let's go meet up for some tacos, and you can never go wrong. And let's see if we can, I'll have to find these guys and tag them and see if they notice our our highlight.
For sure.
Send me the free tacos. I won't turn you. You can never have too many tacos, right?
I love tacos.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us for our episode number 2 of Let's Bring You Home. We're so glad to bring this information to you, and we're excited about. We haven't even decided what the next one is going to be about, but I have so many ideas, and it's just a matter of picking what's next. So we'll bring something exciting to you, and we're so glad that you joined us. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for joining in, guys.